Welcome to Art History with Jackie. Today, we will be looking at Jean-Michel Basquiat. Basquiat is a well known American artist of Haitian and Puerto Rican descent. He started as a graffiti artist and then moved into canvas painting as he progressed in his career. He had one of the most impressive rises from a street artist to widely celebrated, whose work featured in the world's most important museums and galleries. With everything that has been happening this week with regards to the Black Lives Matter movement, I would like to use this platform as a way to celebrate Black artists and their profound contribution to the art world. Basquiat was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1960. His father was a Haitian immigrant and his mother was of Puerto Rican descent, born in New York. Basquiat was introduced to the world of art by his mother, who brought him around Manhattan to visit various art museums and enrolled him as a member of the Brooklyn Museum of Art. He was a very bright child, having learned to read and write at the age of 4, and was fully fluent in Spanish, French, and English by the age of 11. His teachers noticed his artistic talent early on. He attended St. Anne's School, an arts focused school in New York. Basquiat's parents split up and he spent time in Puerto Rico, but returned to New York after 2 years. When he was 13, his mother was put in a mental institution. She was in and out of them for the rest of his life. Basquiat ran away from home when he was 15. He dropped out of high school when he was 17 and lived with his friends. Basquiat's life took a turn from being homeless and unemployed to becoming a successful artist in a short space of time. In 1976, Basquiat began spray painting graffiti in Lower Manhattan. He and his friend painted mysterious messages on walls for 3 years before disbanding. During the early 1980s, Basquiat made a breakthrough as an artist. He began to be noticed by curators and art critics, and his work started to be included in important galleries and museums. He was a widely celebrated artist in the 80s. Despite his success, Basquiat struggled with drug use and died from a heroin overdose at his art studio at 27 years old. Basquiat was celebrated for his unique way of incorporating appropriated text and artistic references into his art. He melded multiple mediums to create his pieces. Basquiat focused on suggestive dichotomies, which means things in life that show a distinct contrast. Some of these included themes of wealth versus poverty, integration versus segregation, and inner versus outer experience. He also depicted several historically prominent Black figures, such as Charlie Parker, who Basquiat thought of as heroes and saints. He often gave them crowns or halos to distinguish them. He used a cartoonish style to speak to the severe inequalities that he saw in his life and in the world. He liked to subvert images that were pervasive in Western civilization. For example, his painting Untitled History of the Black People from 1983 looks at ancient Egypt as the beginning of Western civilization, with an emphasis on Egyptians as African. The fact that the two letters of the word Nile have been crossed out is likely a comment on the fact that historians have conveniently forgotten that Egyptians were black and that black people were enslaved. Another of his prominent works, particularly relevant now, is titled Irony of Negro Policeman from 1981. This piece is intended to demonstrate Basquiat's belief that African Americans have been controlled by a white society. He hoped to portray that African Americans had become complicit with institutionalized and systemic forms of racism and corrupt white power. Basquiat spent his career dealing with these issues that were central to his self identity and sought to encourage discussions that would lead to the dismantling of systems of oppression. Despite his short career, Basquiat produced around 1,500 drawings and around 600 paintings. He has made a profound impact not only on the art world, but on society in general, forcing people to think about issues of race and equality in more depth. During this time, it is important for the art world to become more accessible to Black artists and people of color. We can start by learning more about these artists and incorporating them more prominently in art historical curriculum. This week's challenge is simply to go have a look at some other works by Black artists. Learn about art from different perspectives. Thank you and see you next week.